The ship fell like a burning comet, tearing through Orrin Fletcher's wheat field at dusk. Most farmers would have called the authorities immediately. Most humans would have run the other direction. But Orrin had spent 15 years alone since his wife died, and curiosity outweighed caution as he approached the smoking wreckage with only his old hunting rifle and a flashlight. "Hello?" His voice seemed small against the crackling fires and settling metal. "Anyone alive in there?" The ship wasn't large, perhaps the size of the combine harvester sitting idle in his barn, but its design was unmistakably alien. Sleek purple-black metal, curved like insect carapace, hummed with fading energy. A panel shifted. Something moved inside. Orrin raised his rifle, then slowly lowered it as a small figure tumbled out. Not a monster, not a conquering warrior, just a child, or what appeared to be a child-sized being. Its skin shimmered with a pearlescent blue glow, 4 limbs arranged in roughly humanoid fashion, though the joints bent at odd angles. 2 large eyes dominated a delicate face, pupils expanding and contracting rapidly as they adjusted to Earth's twilight. The being chirped something unintelligible and collapsed. Behind it, another figure appeared, clearly an adult of the same species, mortally wounded. Purple fluid leaked from multiple injuries as it dragged itself halfway out of the wreckage. It held something out to Orrin, a small crystalline device, while making urgent clicking sounds. Orrin stepped forward and accepted the device. The moment he touched it, images flooded his mind. Pursuit, danger, protection, offspring, safety. The alien parent looked at its child, then back at Orrin, eyes pleading with a universal language that transcended species. "I'll take care of your little one," Orrin whispered, not knowing if he was understood but meaning every word. "I promise." The adult's luminescence pulsed once more before fading forever. Within minutes, the ship's remaining systems engaged what appeared to be some kind of emergency protocol, the entire craft dissolving into fine particles that scattered on the evening breeze, leaving no evidence beyond the trampled wheat and the small unconscious being. Orrin gently wrapped the child in his jacket and carried her. Somehow he knew it was a female, back to his farmhouse. He'd lived alone for so long that the idea of suddenly becoming responsible for anyone, let alone an extraterrestrial child, should have terrified him. Instead, he felt a strange, calm purpose. "I'm calling you Lyra," he told the unconscious alien as he created a makeshift bed from blankets. The name felt right, musical and bright like the constellation overhead when they'd met. "And I guess you can call me whatever you want when you wake up." As Orrin bandaged what appeared to be minor injuries, he wondered about the consequences of his decision. Government agencies, scientific research, global panic, all possibilities if anyone discovered Lyra. But looking at the small being's peaceful face, Orrin knew he would protect her from becoming someone's specimen or sensation. The crystal device the parent had given him started to glow softly on the kitchen table. When Orrin touched it again, he understood. It was a teaching tool containing language, culture, warnings. Everything Lyra would need to survive on Earth. Everything Orrin would need to help her. "We'll figure this out together," he promised the sleeping child as dawn approached. "You're safe now." 3 months passed before Lyra spoke her first human word, "Father." Orrin dropped the plate he was washing. "What did you say?" Lyra's bioluminescent skin pulsed with what he'd come to recognize as happiness. "Father. You are my father now." Her English was perfect, though slightly musical, as though each word carried extra harmonics. The translation crystal had been teaching them both, Orrin learning her native tongue of whistles and clicks, Lyra absorbing English and human customs. "I guess I am," he replied, throat suddenly tight. Adapting to Earth hadn't been easy for the young Vacheray. As Lyra had explained, her species was called. Earth's atmosphere contained less nitrogen than her homeworld, making her tired until Orrin rigged an environmental regulator for her bedroom. Her natural diet consisted of mineral compounds that Orrin had to synthesize following the crystal's instructions. And she could never go outside during daylight without special protection. Her skin absorbed solar radiation at rates that could be fatal. But they'd managed. More than managed, they'd formed a family. The stars are different here, Lyra observed that night as they sat on the porch gazing upward. Her English grew more confident by the day. My people believe stars are where thoughts go when we dream. That's beautiful, Oren said. Humans have thousands of different beliefs about stars. The hunters who killed my birth parent will still be searching, she said suddenly, her light dimming to a troubled blue-gray. The crystal shows me. They track Vasheray children because we can see patterns in reality they want to exploit, Oren tensed. What patterns? The connections between dimensions. The threads between worlds. Her small hand touched his. My abilities won't fully manifest until adolescence, but when they do, I will become valuable to them. I won't let anyone take you, Oren promised fiercely. A distant engine sound made them both freeze. Headlights appeared on the long driveway to the farmhouse. Hide, Oren whispered, and Lyra disappeared into the house, activating the concealment protocols they'd rehearsed dozens of times. The black SUV that pulled up contained two men in dark suits. Government types, Oren thought immediately. His heart pounded as they approached. Mr. Fletcher? The taller one flashed a badge too quickly to identify. I'm Agent Mercer. This is Agent Davalos. We're investigating reports of unusual atmospheric activity in this area from 3 months ago. Haven't noticed anything, Oren replied evenly. Just farming and minding my business. Mind if we look around? Agent Davalos asked, already moving toward the barn. Actually, I do mind, Oren said, firmly. If you've got a warrant, show it. Otherwise, this is private property. The agents exchanged glances. We'll be back, Mr. Fletcher, Mercer said quietly. Whatever you're hiding, it's bigger than you understand. As the SUV pulled away, Oren released a shaky breath. Inside the house, he found Lyra emerged from her hiding place, her skin pulsing anxious patterns. It's starting, she whispered. They've detected residual energy from the crash. We need to prepare. Oren nodded grimly. Then we'll prepare. But we're not running, and I'm not giving you up. You're my daughter now. Lyra's eyes, those huge, expressive orbs that could see beyond human perception, filled with what looked remarkably like tears. Thank you, Father. That night, Oren cleaned his old rifle and made plans. The universe had given him an extraordinary responsibility, and somewhere out among those stars, hunters were coming for his child. 2 years passed in vigilant peace. Lyra grew at an astonishing rate, quickly reaching the height and proportions of a human teenager despite being only 5 Earth years old. Her abilities developed just as rapidly. Oren watched with awe as she sat cross-legged in the barn, eyes closed, creating intricate three-dimensional patterns of light that hung in the air around her. It's called threading, she explained, manipulating the glowing strands with graceful movements. I'm learning to see the connections between matter and energy, space and time. Can all Vasheray do this? Oren asked, mesmerized by the dancing lights. Only children of the luminous caste, she replied. My birth family. We were guardians of the dimensional pathways before the Crave invasion. The mention of the Crave, the hunters who had pursued her family's vessel to Earth, always darkened Lyra's bioluminescence to a deep indigo. Her people had been nearly exterminated by the technologically advanced predator species who coveted Vasheray abilities for warfare and dimensional exploration. Watch, Lyra whispered, concentrating intensely. The light patterns converged into a small vortex through which Oren glimpsed what appeared to be another world, crimson skies above violet mountains. The portal lasted only seconds before collapsing. That was your home? He asked softly. Lyra nodded, exhaustion evident in her dimmed glow. Just an image, not a true passage. I'm not strong enough yet to create stable connections. But someday, she left the sentence unfinished. Their quiet existence was disrupted again when Lyra developed what appeared to be a severe illness. Her luminescence flickered erratically, and her temperature soared to levels that would have killed a human. The crystal, she gasped, pointing weakly toward the alien device. Metamorphosis protocols. The translation crystal revealed that Lyra was undergoing her species' equivalent of puberty, a biological transformation that would fully activate her threading abilities. For 3 days, Oren kept constant vigil, following the crystal's instructions, to ease her suffering as her internal physiology restructured itself. When Lyra finally emerged from her chrysalis-like state, she was changed. Her skin's luminescence had deepened to a rich sapphire, intricate patterns flowing beneath the surface. Her eyes now contained shifting galaxies of light. "I can see everything now, Father," she whispered in wonder. "The threads that bind reality, they're everywhere." That night they sat on the porch as they often did, but something had changed in their relationship. Lyra was becoming something beyond human understanding, and they both felt it. "Do you ever regret taking me in?" she asked, suddenly. "Your life would be simpler, safer." Oren considered this as he looked up at the stars. "Before you crashed into my field, I was just existing, not living. You gave me purpose again." He turned to her, his weathered face softening. "I've never regretted a single day." A shooting star blazed overhead, but Lyra stiffened, her new perceptions detecting something humans could not. "That's not a meteor," she said, rising to her feet. "It's a scout probe. The Crave have found us." Oren's hand found hers, steady and reassuring despite his fear. "How long do we have?" "Days. Maybe less." Lyra's eyes tracked the invisible trajectory of their enemy. "They'll send hunters first, then extraction specialists. Can we fight them?" Lyra's expression grew determined. "With my new abilities and your human ingenuity? Yes, but it won't be easy." She squeezed his hand. "They underestimate humans, Father. They think your species is primitive. That will be their mistake." As they prepared for the coming confrontation, Oren realized how much Lyra had changed him. 5 years ago, he'd been a broken man mourning his wife, content to fade away on his isolated farm. Now he stood ready to face alien invaders to protect his adopted daughter. Humanity might be technologically outmatched by the Crave, but Oren knew what they didn't. Never underestimate a parent protecting their child. The Crave hunters arrived at midnight 1 week later, their craft silently deploying 4 armored figures at the edge of Oren's property. But Oren and Lyra were ready. Through her newly enhanced abilities, Lyra had connected with the farm's electrical systems, sensing the intruders' approach through disturbances in the electromagnetic field. "They're coming from the north field," she whispered, her luminescence dimmed to near invisibility. 4 hunters, heavily armed. Oren checked his modified rifle. Following Lyra's specifications, he had adapted ordinary ammunition with minerals from her home world, theoretically capable of penetrating Crave armor. Remember the plan. The Crave moved with predatory grace, their exosuits resembling biomechanical insectoids. They communicated through subsonic frequencies that Lyra could detect, but Oren couldn't hear. "They're splitting up," she reported. 2, approaching the house, 2 circling to the barn. Oren positioned himself at the reinforced window. When the first hunter entered the cleared perimeter, he took careful aim and fired. The shot struck with a flash of blue energy as the modified bullet reacted with the Crave armor. The hunter stumbled but didn't fall, immediately firing back with an energy weapon that scorched the side of the farmhouse. "Their armor is stronger than we estimated," Lyra said tersely. "I need to get closer to thread their systems." "Too dangerous," Oren protested. But Lyra was already moving, her body partially phasing between dimensions, a new ability she'd been practicing in secret. Outside, Lyra appeared behind the wounded hunter, her hands weaving complex patterns that interfered with the alien's exosuit systems. The Crave convulsed as connection points in its armor failed, vital life support functions disrupting. The second hunter spotted her and fired. Oren's heart stopped as the energy blast seemed to hit Lyra directly, only to watch in amazement as she shifted partially out of phase, the energy passing through her disrupted molecular structure. But the effort cost her. Lyra collapsed, momentarily, solid again and vulnerable. The hunter advanced, weapon charging for a killing blow. Oren didn't think. He crashed through the door, firing repeatedly. This time, knowing the armor's weak points from Lyra's first attack, his shots found purchase. The hunter fell, purple ichor leaking from its damaged exosuit. The remaining two Crave converged on their position. Oren dragged Lyra behind the water, Truff shielding her with his body. "Father," she gasped, her luminescence flickering weakly. "I can create a dimensional fold, but I need time." "How much time?" 30 seconds. "Maybe less," Oren nodded, handing her the crystal device. "Do it. I'll buy you time." Before she could protest, he stood and ran toward the barn, drawing the hunter's fire. A blast caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around but not stopping his headlong charge. He ducked inside the barn where he'd prepared one final surprise. When the hunters followed, Oren hit the switch. The improvised electromagnetic pulse, built from farm equipment and enhanced with Lyra's technology, detonated, temporarily disabling the Crave exosuits. It wouldn't last long. Their systems would reboot in seconds. Oren, clutching his burned shoulder, grabbed the shotgun he'd hidden and fired at point-blank range into the first hunter's visor. The second hunter recovered faster than expected, lashing out with a mechanical limb that sent Oren crashing into the wall. As the alien loomed over him, weapon charging, Oren closed his eyes and thought of Lyra. The killing blast never came. Instead, reality itself seemed to tear open as Lyra created a dimensional rift that engulfed the remaining hunter, sending it elsewhere. "Father." She rushed to Oren's side, her hands already working to heal his injuries using her threading abilities to accelerate cellular repair. "I told you not to be heroic." Oren coughed weakly. Couldn't help it. Must be a human thing. As Lyra helped him back to the house, they both knew this was just the beginning. The hunters had been defeated, but they were merely the advance party. The Crave would send more, and next time, they would be prepared for resistance. "We need to leave," Lyra said quietly as she bandaged his wounds. "They'll track the hunter's last transmission back here." Oren looked around at the farmhouse that had been his home for decades. "Where would we go?" Lyra's eyes glimmered with determination. "I can thread a path to a safe location, but we need to disappear completely." She hesitated. "Are you sure you want to come with me? Your life here?" "My life is with you now," Oren interrupted. "You're my daughter. Where you go, I go." As dawn broke over the horizon, they prepared to leave everything behind. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. The dimensional fold Lyra created transported them to the Adirondack Mountains, to an isolated cabin Oren had inherited from his grandfather but hadn't visited in 20 years. Snow covered the ground despite it being summer in the valley they'd left behind. "Different temporal drift here," Lyra explained, her breath visible in the cold air. "We've shifted slightly out of phase with normal Earth time. It will make us harder to track." Oren surveyed the dilapidated cabin. "It's not much, but it'll keep us sheltered while we plan our next move." For 3 months, they lived in cautious isolation. Lyra's abilities grew exponentially as she practiced threading multiple dimensional pathways. She could now create stable portals between locations, though the effort exhausted her. More impressively, she began to perceive the Crave communications network, vast arrays of subspatial signals that connected their fleets across the galaxy. "They're mobilizing," she announced one evening as she emerged from a deep meditative state. "A harvester ship is approaching Earth orbit. They're not just coming for me anymore. They've identified humanity as a potential threat." Oren stared into the fire they'd built. "Because of what we did to their hunters?" "Partly, but also because they've analyzed human potential." Lyra's luminescence shifted to patterns of concern. "The Crave have encountered hundreds of species across multiple galaxies. They believe humans have unusually high adaptive capacity. They fear what your species might become." "So what's their plan?" Oren asked, dreading the answer. "Standard Crave protocol for potentially threatening species, isolation and controlled harvesting. They'll establish orbital blockades to prevent human space exploration while extracting selected specimens for study." Her voice grew quieter. Eventually, selective elimination of population centers to maintain manageable numbers. The implications horrified Oren. An entire planet at risk because they found you here? No, Lyra corrected gently. They would have discovered Earth eventually. My presence just accelerated their timeline. She took his hand. But my presence also gives Earth an advantage they don't anticipate. Over the following weeks, Lyra taught Oren about crave vulnerabilities, their hierarchical command structure, their dependence on specific dimensional frequencies for faster-than-light communication, their almost religious fear of certain realities that existed adjacent to normal space. I believe I can create a dimensional barrier around Earth, Lyra explained. Not permanently, but long enough to stop the initial invasion and make them reconsider their approach. What would that cost you? Oren asked, recognizing the gravity in her voice. Lyra's luminescence pulsed with complex emotions. To generate a barrier of that magnitude, I would need to channel dimensional energies through my physical form. The crystal warns that such attempts have transformative consequences for Vasharay. You mean it could kill you? Or change me into something no longer Vasharay, no longer your daughter? Her voice faltered. There's no way to know. Oren pulled her into an embrace. There has to be another way. But as they tracked the approaching crave vessel through Lyra's perceptions, the options dwindled. The harvester ship would reach Earth orbit within days. Their planning was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Agent Mercer, the government man who had come to the farm years ago, somehow tracked them to the cabin. I've been following energy fluctuations for 3 years, he explained after Oren reluctantly allowed him inside. Whatever you're hiding, Fletcher, we need it now. Our deep space monitoring has detected an object on approach, something massive. Lyra stepped into view, no longer hiding her alien nature, her skin pulsing with nervous light. You need me. To Mercer's credit, he recovered quickly from the shock. What? Who are you? The reason they're coming, she answered simply. And possibly your only chance to stop them. After initial distrust, an uneasy alliance formed. Mercer revealed that a small government faction had been aware of extraterrestrial threats for decades, but lacked concrete evidence or defense capabilities. Lyra's knowledge and abilities changed everything. I can help protect Earth, she told Mercer, but I need something in return. Name it, the agent replied. Guarantee my father's safety and freedom, no matter what happens to me. As Mercer left to make arrangements with his superiors, Oren confronted Lyra. I won't let you sacrifice yourself. Lyra's luminescence brightened with determination. You taught me what it means to protect those you love, Father. Now I must do the same. 3 days later, as the crave harvester entered Earth's solar system, Oren, Lyra, and a small team of government specialists gathered at a remote military facility in Nevada. There, amid advanced human technology augmented by Lyra's guidance, they prepared to make their stand. Whatever happens, Oren told Lyra as they embraced one final time. I am so proud of you. The crave harvester ship loomed in Earth's orbit, like a massive obsidian thorn, its surface bristling with weapons and collection apparatus. Smaller craft began deploying toward strategic locations around the globe. In the Nevada facility, surrounded by hastily assembled technological components, Lyra stood within a circular array of transmitters designed to amplify her threading abilities. Oren watched anxiously from behind protective shielding, refusing to leave despite the dangers. Dimensional folding initiated, announced one of the technicians monitoring the equipment. Energy levels rising. Lyra's luminescence intensified, until her humanoid form became difficult to discern within the brilliant blue-white light. Her hands moved in increasingly complex patterns as she manipulated the fundamental forces that separated dimensions. On screens around the facility, satellite feeds showed the first crave landing craft entering Earth's atmosphere. We're detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the alien vessels, reported a military analyst. They may be responding to our activity. Oren gripped the edge of the console. They can sense what she's doing. Agent Mercer nodded grimly, which means they'll target this facility first. Defense teams are in position, but against their technology, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Human weapons would be grossly outmatched. Within the energy field, Lyra began to change, her physical form elongated, segments of her body shifting in and out of conventional reality. The translation crystal positioned at the center of the array pulsed in synchronization with her movements. "Father?" Her voice resonated strangely, as if coming from multiple locations simultaneously. "I can see the pattern now, all of it." Through their hastily established communication system, they detected the Crave command signals redirecting all landing craft toward their location. "They're coming here," Mercer warned. "ETA, 8 minutes. Lyra's voice came again, more distant. "The barrier requires an anchor point, a consciousness that exists in both states of reality." "What does that mean?" Oren demanded of the scientists, who looked equally confused. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. A Crave advance force had breached the outer perimeter. Security cameras showed alien hunters moving with frightening efficiency through the defensive positions, their advanced weapons cutting through human resistance. "We need more time," shouted the lead scientist. Oren made his decision instantly. He grabbed a weapon from one of the guards and headed toward the exit. "Fletcher, stop," Mercer called after him. "You'll be killed." "My daughter needs time," Oren replied without slowing. "I'm going to give it to her." In the corridors beyond the main chamber, Oren confronted the advancing Crave hunters. His modified weapon, using principles Lyra had taught him, proved surprisingly effective. 3 hunters fell to his careful shots before their return fire forced him to retreat deeper into the facility. A blast caught him in the leg, then another grazed his side. Bleeding and cornered, Oren prepared for his final stand, only to witness the hunters suddenly freeze in position as if time itself had stopped around them. "Father." Lyra's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. The air shimmered, and a portion of Lyra's consciousness manifested before him, her form now barely recognizable, existing somewhere between matter and energy. "What's happening to you?" Oren asked, reaching toward her but finding his hand pass through her image. "I've become the anchor," she explained, her voice echoing with newfound power. "My consciousness exists simultaneously across multiple planes of reality. I can maintain the dimensional barrier from within the dimensional fold itself. Can you come back?" He couldn't keep the desperation from his voice. Her luminescence pulsed with what he recognized as love. "Not as I was, but I will always be your daughter, and I will always be connected to you." Above them, throughout Earth's atmosphere, a spectacular aurora bloomed, visible even in daylight, as Lyra extended her consciousness to create a dimensional barrier around the entire planet. The Crave vessels found themselves unable to penetrate. This new defense, their weapons and technologies disrupted by fundamental forces they couldn't comprehend. In orbit, the harvester ship attempted to breach the barrier with increasingly desperate measures. But each attempt was met with cascading failures as the dimensional frequencies shifted unpredictably, guided by Lyra's transcendent awareness. After hours of futile attempts, the Crave fleet retreated to a safe distance, their command structure clearly reassessing the situation. Earth had been classified as a protected dimensional anomaly, a designation the Crave had encountered only a handful of times in their long history of conquest, and never one artificially created. In the aftermath, as the facility slowly recovered from the attack, Oren sat alone in the chamber where Lyra had transformed. The translation crystal, now altered by the enormous energies it had channeled, pulsed occasionally with familiar patterns of light. Agent Mercer approached cautiously. "The President wants to thank you personally. What happened here today? You and your daughter have saved humanity." Oren nodded silently, his eyes fixed on the crystal. "Our scientists say the barrier she created will last for decades, possibly centuries," Mercer continued. "By then, using what we've learned from her technology, humanity might be ready to defend itself properly." "She's still out there," Oren said quietly. "Not gone, just changed. That night, as Oren slept in temporary quarters within the facility, he dreamed of stars and distant worlds. But these weren't ordinary dreams, they were communications. Lyra, now existing as a consciousness spanning multiple dimensions, was showing him what she could see. "I understand now why the Crave feared the Vasharay," her voice explained within the dreamscape, "and why they fear humans too. Both our species can transcend our limitations in ways they cannot comprehend. Will you ever be able to take physical form again?" Oren asked within the dream. "Perhaps someday. The universe contains more possibilities than even I can perceive now." Her presence surrounded him with familiar warmth. "But I needed you to know that I'm still watching over you, over all of humanity." When Oren woke, the translation crystal lay beside his bed, glowing with gentle luminescence. Within it, he could sometimes glimpse images of distant galaxies and strange new worlds, Lyra's way of sharing her cosmic journey with him. In the years that followed, Oren worked with Earth's governments to prepare humanity for its eventual emergence onto the galactic stage. The technology Lyra had left behind advanced human understanding by centuries, while the barrier she maintained kept the Crave at bay. Sometimes, on clear nights, Oren would sit alone on the porch of a new home, similar to his old farmhouse but positioned where the aurora of Lyra's barrier shone brightest. There, beneath the dancing lights of his daughter's creation, he would place his hand on the translation crystal and feel her presence. "I'm proud of you," he would whisper to the stars, and sometimes, just sometimes, the aurora would pulse in response, a daughter's love transcending dimensions to reach her father. Throughout the galaxy, a new story began to spread among spacefaring civilizations, how a single human's compassion for an alien child had ultimately protected an entire world, and how that child had ascended to become something greater, a guardian spanning realities, born from the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter from beyond the stars. The human had raised a lost alien child, and now she watched over worlds,